I'm a lifelong resident of this district, primarily the eastern portion of Orangeburg County, born and raised here. Um, so has my family's been here for 280 years. We came over in 1737 and settled in this spot. Uh, my father was in the House 1960 to 68, so I'm a little bit educated in what goes on as far as people, needing things, wanting things, and the input he had as far as getting bills passed and whatnot. I live in a very rural community. uh, I've been in the engineering field for the last 42 years. I'm retiring from that in June, and my wife and I own a little ice cream hamburger shop in Utahville, and that's primarily what I'm doing now until I, win the election. Sorry, guys, and uh, plan to just serve the people of this district.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Stevens, would you like to go ahead and do your intro, please?
Yes, my name is Vernon Stevens. I've been a lifelong resident of Beaumont, South Carolina. I, too, am a part of Eastern Orangeburg County, but I've had political activism throughout the county of Orangeburg and the surrounding counties. I've been a member of the Board of Education for Orangeburg County after it was consolidated in 1997 until it was dissolved in the year of 2006. In 2010, I was elected to the school board, Orangeburg Consolidated School District number 5. I served in the capacity as vice chair the last 6 years of that board, and the chair the last year. I consider education as our mechanism by which we can arrive and get into the future. Our children, our communities are dependent upon a well-educated workforce, as well as partnerships with the communities, with the stakeholders. In order for that to happen, somebody must be in Columbia who understand the works in and outs of education and the significance that it has on our communities, our state, and our nation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Evans, you are next.
Sure. So I was born and raised in Beaumont, South Carolina. I currently live in Santee. I've been a very active businesswoman since I was 20. I started with, a hair salon and currently owning a real estate firm and mortgage company. I have spoken with plenty of focus groups to actually help my clients do things that we needed to get done at that time. I've also been a part of the school board, as my husband was, in Williamsburg County, my ex-husband. I am not new to the political arena at all. I know the strength that a person that needs to hold this position must have, and the knowledge they must have, and I have that. I know running for this office position will be a monumental task. I have the grit, the know-how to not just win, but to carry it on. I want you all to know that I have dedicated my life to the youth. I have a daughter and 2 sons. One of my sons, both my sons are on scholarships at universities. One at Ole Miss. He graduated in 3 years and now in grad school at the age of 21. I have another one at Georgia Tech, and they both play football. I know the ins and outs of the educational system, preparing kids for world-class education at that. And at the same time, I've visited over 50 colleges with my sons along with other young men, preparing them and getting them into colleges. So that's me. That's just, education has always been something that I push, not just for my children, but the youth of our community. And that's it.
Awesome. That's great. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Montgomery, last but not least.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jerry Montgomery, and I'm also running for Senate Seat District 39. I do have a platform outlined, but before I go into my platform, I would like to let you know that I'm also a lifetime resident of Bowman, South Carolina. I'm new to politics, but I'm not new to dealing with people. I've been out there for a long time. I've been pastoring for over 20 years. I've also owned barbershops for over 25 years. We do have a cafe as well. I have a beautiful family, grandkids, as well as a great grandson. But I believe that at this point in my life, that I can do some different things that I see that is necessary for South Carolina District 39. I will fight. My platform is I will fight for your voice to be heard daily with effective practice. My plan of action is social media polls, community surveys, radio dial-ins, and to have monthly meetings with each county within District 39. I will fight for the small businesses that struggle daily. As I say, out my barber as well, especially our salons, nail salons, the barbershop, the businesses label as non-essential. I know your struggle because I struggle as well to pay local taxes, state taxes, the federal, to buy inventory, keep insurance, to pay employees, and all to just be last to get an SBA loan with no strings attached. I have a plan of action to reach out to our local attorneys and legal assistants to make sure free consultation and pro bono representation is available to qualified constituents. Thirdly, I will fight to provide quality classroom to all our public school teachers, students. I've seen mold in some of the classrooms. They are unacceptable. A happy staff, our students, for education is the key to success. My plan of action to meet with all schools within our counties and write a proposal to the Educational Facility Clearinghouse to obtain funding to draw. Fourthly, I will fight for the conservation of our land, conservation of our land and our offshore drilling. It is extremely important to not even risk a chance of any oil spills into our waters. It will remain a danger to all humans and animals and environment. My plan of action for that is to speak out publicly about conserving our natural resources. And also, fifthly, I will fight for better roads. Our roads are awful. I don't know whether you travel up and down the roads, but our roads are very awful. Our roads are in predicament where we are filling in potholes and repaving. That's not repairing our road. I will reach out to the U.S. Department of Transportation to provide grants to hold us together and maintain a fast and safe, efficient, accessible, and convenient transportation system for the American people. We can never get.
I'm sorry. I was just going to tidy up so we can get started on the questions. I'm sorry, Mr.
Okay, you want me to stop?
Yes, sir.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, we're going to do the first question. The first question goes to the second person who was on our list. So, Mr. Stevens, the first question starts with you. Everybody will have the same questions. Mr. Stevens just goes first. If you could keep your answers under 2 minutes, that would make sure that we don't have a long extended recording tonight. Okay. All right. So the first question, Mr. Stevens, what is your opinion of the state of public education in South Carolina today?
The state of public education in South Carolina is at a crossroad. We need to look at doing things differently. The Education Improvement Act that was passed and enacted in the mid-1970s, the formula that went with that act has not truly been funded since its enactment. And in order for us to assure our children that they are prepared for a global society, then we need to review the Education Improvement Act. We need to review all acts that relates to education and its funding. Unless we do that, and we do it without any hesitation, do it without the talking, do it without the filibustering, and really put education at the forefront, we will be a lost generation. I've had the distinct privilege over the years of working in a manufacturing facility as a manufacturing manager and relating what's being expected of employees to the education arena. And I found out that we are not truly preparing our students and unless we do something differently, then we will have a generation that is not prepared for what we've been preparing for now for the last 20 some odd years. And that is going into this century with individuals with the skills that will guarantee them a successful life and a successful career.
Oh, okay, thank you very much. Ms. Evans, the same question for you. What is your opinion of the state of public education in South Carolina today?
Well, starting with uplifting and supporting our educators, we definitely need to start with, with that first, and ensuring that our school districts are properly funded, establishing partnerships and with communication and internet companies to have broadband internet implemented and available within the district. That would definitely help with the children and their learning, along with promoting the STEM program. That's something that, being that I've lived in, not just, I'm from here, I've lived here, but I've also lived in other districts throughout South Carolina. And that is something that I see that we are lacking here in our district. And also encouraging education to our youth within the 21st digital century, not just the 21st century. We need to be in the 21st century of digital economy. That's where we are failing at. And that's just something, that's the state that I see our education system here in our district at right now, where we need to improve.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, thank you. Mr. Montgomery, the same question goes to you. What is your opinion of the state of public education in South Carolina today?
I believe we're in a place where we can move forward and where we can even grow from where we are now. Educational Superintendent Molly Spearman, she spoke about what we need to do so far as getting grants, and we're in a crisis right now. She talked about even getting instructional 6 days, a $30 million per day grant, which is $100 million, and also $50 million plus for summer school. We need to look at things where it's going to get our kids to where they need to be. Some of them do not have access to technology, nor the internet or Wi-Fi. We have, out of the 80 districts, we have 79 districts that reported 150,000. Like I said, that don't have any access to the internet or Wi-Fi. And so there's 160,000 new devices needed for distant learning. And we're in this crisis, and if we continue to work together and plan and prepare, we can move forward and build our economy to what it needs to be. Instead of just saying certain things, we got to plan it and work towards where we need to go as education is concerned.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Stevens. Okay, Mr. Connor.
Montgomery.
I'm sorry, Montgomery, I apologize.
Okay.
Mr. Connor, last but not least, your opinion of the state of public education in South Carolina today.
Well, being married to a retired teacher, I get an earful of what the state of education is, but it's all regional. Take, for instance, the Lexington, Batesburg, Leesville area. Public education there is excellent. I mean, my son and my daughter attended Lexington High School, first-class education. In some of the rural areas like Orangeburg County, Bowman, there's some definite lackings in educating our kids. I have a small business. I employ people that have a high school education or GED, and the basic things they're not learning in school. Like one day I questioned them about change, money. Whose picture is on a $10 bill? Nobody could tell me. Whose picture is on the $20 bill? They still couldn't tell me. And what flabbergasted me was they didn't know who was on the $5 bill. Now, that's not public schools' problem. That's just their cognizance of what's going on. The teachers in public school and in private schools, one thing I hear from a lot of them is that they feel like they should not have to be supplying the supplies for their kids to do the work. Maybe it's a little different in the high school and middle school. My wife was a first grade teacher. She taught fourth grade, and she had to give the kids a lot of the pencils, paper, and all of that. But I think basically education and the ability of a child to learn and to have the desire to learn starts in the home. You know, we can't say it's the teacher's fault if they're not being educated properly. It all starts in the home. And to elaborate on another topic, broadband in rural areas. I live in a rural area. My internet speed is 0.3 MIPS. I mean, that's close to dial-up. In fact, I'm sitting in the parking lot at my business now because I've got a better connection. But we need to get broadband out there. We need to get a fast broadband so that the kids in school can do the homework that's necessary, and they can learn and do research on the internet that they need for the studies that they're after. I'm a technical school graduate, Orangeburg Calhoun Tech. I got a wonderful education, and I was employed in the field that I educated in for the last 42 years. It served me well, and the kids that I see coming out of the tech schools now, they've got a good, solid education and a good basic start to their life, which will carry them through. So, it depends on where you are in the state, what state the education is in, but it suffers, I think, a little bit in the rural areas because we're lacking in basic services that the kids need to get that education and to proceed with their life's work, which is whatever they want to do as far as a chosen career. Everything that everybody said, I agree with wholeheartedly. I'm just trying to be a little more simplistic to get an idea of what really is needed to get the kids educated and to get them on the right path to the rest of their life.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so question number 2. This time we're going to start with Cindy Evans. The question is, what steps would you take to improve public education?
To improve public education, we must start with the educators. For one, we must, in the rural areas, and I'm going to take it out and then bring it back in. In the rural areas, we must be able to keep our educators here. And that is going to have to start with being able to have the amenities for people to want to live in our rural areas to actually be those educators that we actually need. We don't want our good people leaving our rural areas. And I believe and I know that if that would be the first thing that I would do to keep people here, to get the amenities, for example, if we have a person who is an excellent principal, excellent teacher, but they have a teenager, that teenager wants to go out on a date. That teenager want to go to a movie. We don't have, they may say, well, I'm not going to live in this area because I have a teenager, and the teenager is going to want to play sports. That teenager want to have training. That teenager want to go to the movies. That teenager want to do all things that teenagers do. But it's not an area the rural areas are not good for the teenagers. So that would bring them to move to Lexington. Like you say, the schools there are great. My kids went to school in Chapin. So, those are the reasons that I moved. And I can see why other educators, which my sister-in-law, she's in the school district here. And that's the reason why she wanted to move. So that whenever I become senator, that would be the first thing. I will bring it to the point where everyone will want to be here. Our educators will want to stay. And that will be the first thing that I do to keep to start getting our programs where they need to be, is keeping our good people in our area.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Montgomery, we're going to repeat the question. So what steps would you take to improve public education?
I would develop apps for students with no technology, since the kids use the phone so much, and some of us grown as well. Also develop a software for personal learning virtually for students and the teenagers. We need to require and ask for better teachers with more grants, and also we can get, when you got a better teacher, you can give the students they can learn more, and require them to even spend more time with them so they can be better as they grow and go out into the world, into the society. So I believe as we continue to do this and move forward with developing different apps, the students will be able to learn more because they grasp things quickly like that. So that's one of the things that I would see to make us move forward.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Montgomery. All right, so Mr. Connor, question for you. What steps would you take to improve public education?
Well, I think teacher pay has to be addressed, whether you're rural or in a city environment. you've got to be able to pay your bills and support your family. You know, my experience with teachers that I've known, that's the main concern they have is the pay. And I've been in some public school classrooms. When I worked for several architects, we did renovations to schools, and one lady was in a study hall, and the kids were just wild. And I said, "Ma'am, I don't know what they're paying you, but it's not enough for what you're doing." She said, "You're right, because today teachers are more like daycare workers. You know, they're babysitting the kids that that they shouldn't have to be doing that. The parents should have had a foothold on what the kids, you know, do prior to coming in. Motivating the kids, motivating the teachers is another thing that has to be done." And the gentleman had said, you know, create the apps. I'm all for that. Kids now are digitally oriented. They want to be able to, you know, look up information on their phones or their tablets, and that's a big thing. Make that attractive to them to want to learn how to produce the apps, and you've got a really good basis for your career. Also, the environment that the schools are in, you know, upgrading our schools so that the teachers will want to come and teach in the school in an area. They're like doctors, you know, doctors sometimes don't want to be in rural areas because they just can't make the money that they could in a urban situation. It's the same with teachers. Improve the schools, improve the money, and I think everything else will fall into place.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Connor. And last, Vernon Stevens, what steps would you take to improve public education?
I think first of all, we need to start with per pupil spending. As we know, those who have been in the education arena, we know that we have not funded the formula to what it's supposed to be at today's standards. Our kids, our children, our school districts are being, in a sense, cheated out in the tune of about $3 million in Orangeburg Consolidated School District number 5 over the last 5-6 years. So per pupil spending needs to truly be funded and looked at. We need to partner. We need a partnership with our stakeholders, our communities. And in order for us to do that, then we must understand, and from a state standpoint, we need to make sure that we put things in place that will assure that our stakeholder voice are heard and that they are a part of the educational process. We found out too that when we are looking at data, we see the improvement of those children who are ready for first grade if and when we provide a 4-year-old program. But we need to not only provide a 4-year-old program for a select few, but make it available to all children in the state of South Carolina. The data proves that they are ready for first grade once they have gone through the 4-year-old program and kindergarten. We started a program, a summer enrichment program in Orangeburg Consolidated School District 5 in the Bowman community called Mohawk Mania. We saw growth in our students from anywhere between 6 months to 8 months. And that is a huge improvement. All of us understand that there is a summer slide during the month when there's no school or school is out. Unless you keep our children actively involved in the education process, they are going to have that hiccup in their education.
Okay, thank you very much. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, sir, you paused. I thought you were done. Did you want to say one other thing?
Yeah, we must provide an environment that is conducive to learning. The buildings in some of our school districts are in total disarray, and we need to make sure in order for us to bring in technology, there needs to be improvements in the buildings.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so that's question number 2. Let's move on to question number 3. And Mr. Montgomery, this is you taking the question first. If elected, what would you do to address the funding of public education?
Repeat the question.
Yes, sir. If elected, what would you do to address the funding of public education?
I will reach out to all our local attorneys and legal aid assistants to make sure free consultation and representation is available for everyone in charge. And also, we will meet with all the schools within our counties and write a proposal. Also, to the educational facility clearinghouse to obtain funding so that we can be able to take care of the needs of our kids and children. So whenever they do get out of school or they're prepared, we prepare them for success, not for failure. So if we work and try to get better funding and also get better technology, we'll be able to do better things for our students, and so our scores will go, our test scores will be higher, and we can do better things in our classroom. That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Connor, same question to you. If you're elected, what would you do to address the funding of public education?
Funding of public education. Well, the quick answer is just say raise taxes, but that's not the answer. The South Carolina Education Lottery, I think, is a wonderful idea. It gives an opportunity to kids who otherwise could not afford to go to college, the ability to strive for good grades in high school so that they can get these grants from the education lottery system. Perhaps we need something like that in the public schools, K through 12. Next issue, I'm real big on the tax thing. I mean, my mother's 95 years old. She has no kids in school, yet a portion of her county taxes are taken out to go toward education. You know, I think that people who actually are benefiting from the service should pay more for the service. Like, you've got 2 kids in school, you should be charged just a hair more in your taxes than somebody who has no kids in school. You know, I really don't know what the best answer is for funding public education, but I think one thing that could be done is not to waste the money that's already being taken from taxes, spreading it around to other things. That's something I have to think about. You know, just what could you do to make it better?
Okay.
That's all.
No, that's okay. Okay, Mr. Stevens, third question. If elected, what would you do to address the funding of public education?
First of all, I would rely on the state superintendent of education and the state board of education understanding their perspective of what is needed to actually run and to educate our children, not only in certain portions of the state, but throughout the state of South Carolina. You know, I'm going back to the per pupil spending. Unless we abide, unless we truly fund the formula, and that's going to take what one of the senators told me some years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, until the General Assembly get the intestinal fortitude to put education at the forefront, we're going to always continue to have these questions about what are we going to do about education? How are we going to prepare our students? The General Assembly, the individuals who actually set how funds are going to be distributed from a budget standpoint is where we start. But unless we have the information from the state superintendent of education, the board of education, the education oversight committee, all of those different components who are supposed to be about public education and what is actually need to fund, then we're not going to do what is right by our children. So we need to make sure that what we have in place is working until we can get something in place that is truly going to be for the betterment of our children. And our formula right now is not working. We need to actually look at overhauling the formula that discussion is being made. What is happening now with the General Assembly and their restructuring of how we fund public education. And let me just say this: we cannot fund public education if through the back door we are funding private education and private charter schools. Public education is public education. This state is mandated or required to fund public education. And I'm not going to say adequately, because adequately have gotten us to the place of where we are. We need to step it up. And until we who are to be elected to the South Carolina General Assembly, which I will be starting on June the 10th and going into the general election, we have to make sure that we sit at the table or sit at our desk and we have public education in mind, and making sure that we look at all avenues by which we can fund public schools in South Carolina. Now, I must say that I've been an advocate for a number of years, going to DC, sitting down with our national representatives, our senators, our House members, as well as the superintendent of education. And we have sat and we have had discussions about funding of public education. And they are beginning now to get the message that we have missed the boat. We need to look at alternative means by which we fund public education. A couple of years ago, it was performance grants. We found out that the smaller districts, the rural districts, did not have the individuals in place who will adequately or could adequately write grants that will assure them that they will get a piece of that pie. And that is where consolidation comes in. I have been a proponent of consolidation for the last 10 years. And the state of South Carolina, I must say, is now beginning to understand that a small district has the same individuals as a district that's sometimes 2 and 3 times larger. So are we spending money conservatively? No, we have to look at those things, whether or not it's consolidation or whether it's improving and making sure that the formula works. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Evans, so if elected, what would you do to address the funding of public education?
Well, we know the funding comes from local taxes, state level. Those are the 3 major funding sources that we have for our education. It's just making sure that those funds are allocated to, where they're being needed, or where, we're using those funds effectively. I can petition the committees for more funding for particular districts due to lack of particular reasons, underfunding for previous bills, or, just making sure that money is used where it needs to be used. That's basically it. We can just keep them, amend to raise taxes on gas, or, just fight to make sure that we are doing what we need to do just in those particular areas, making sure that the money is used effectively in the districts that is needed in. That's it.
Okay. All right. So next question number 4. First person up is Mr. Connor. And the question is, what do you believe is the top issue surrounding public education in South Carolina?
Motivation of the students. It all begins in the home. You can take a kid to school, but if he's not there willing to learn and wanting to learn and being motivated to learn, school has to be exciting. When I was a kid back in, the 60s, and everything was new when you're young. Everything you learn was new. And kids coming up today, when they hit middle school, high school, they've basically seen it all. And you've got to come up with creative ways to get them to really want to learn about a subject. I think apps would be good. The internet's a wonderful source, to do research. The teachers need the tools to guide the students to the proper avenues in the internet to get the information they need. But you've got to make it exciting for them. Just building a really multi-million-dollar school and having nice carpet and nice paint and wall coverings. It's a nice environment, but you still don't have the motivation of the kids to want to learn something. I think the teachers have to, in this day and time, change the way they're teaching. But having said that, I think their hands are tied by a lot of the districts and the school superintendents that really don't let them experiment in ways that would be motivational to a child to want to learn anything. So you got to give the teachers kind of free hand, in education, and see if that works. Because right now, I guess a lot of kids, would rather be doing something else than going to school. That's it.
Okay. All right. Mr. Stevens, to you, what do you believe is the top issue surrounding public education in South Carolina?
The recruitment of teachers into the recruitment of students into the teaching arena. Every year, as many of us know, there is a shortage of over 2,000 teachers per year in the state of South Carolina. And until we get folks, students interested in public education or interested in wanting to teach, there's going to be a shortage in our classrooms. The pay level of our teachers, we have made strides toward improving that pay scale at or beyond the southeastern level. We are getting there. However, there's still room for improvement. And truly going back once again to leveling the playing field for education of a child, whether or not that child resides in Greenville County or resides in Allendale County. Every child should be afforded the same education opportunity. And we must put those things at the forefront because they are peeping their heads up at us, and it's giving us a black eye as it relates to education in South Carolina. So teacher recruitment, teacher retention, pay level, and adequate funding for public education is those top issues that I see that needs to be addressed when I get to the South Carolina General Assembly.
Okay. Ms. Evans, same question. What do you believe is the top issue surrounding public education in South Carolina?
Top issue would be, the main issue would be the way South Carolina funds the schools. Funding, of course, is definitely the first. The way that the lack of certified teachers, qualified teachers per student would be the second. And at the same time, we need to build a partnership with educational institutions to establish educational pathways, 2 4-year or technical programs to grow the foundation and make our, graduates ready. At this point, we are not ready as students. The students are not ready to continue to, the programs and align themselves for the workforce that's needed in the 21st digital economy. We have nothing in this area that has anything to do with clean energy, artificial intelligence, blockchain, robotics, cloud, cyber systems, apps. That's back. That's not where we need to be at. We need to be focusing on artificial intelligence, blockchain, and just the voice of the future. Just making sure that our kids are ready for the future, and that I don't see here. And that's where I think that we're lacking in the
Okay.
school system.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Montgomery, same question. What do you believe is the top issue surrounding public education in South Carolina?
Well, the main thing I see is funding. I believe that we need more funding, and I agree with everyone with funding. We can't have a stronger technology if our funding is low. So we need more funding. We need better leadership, strong leadership. Our teachers need to be advanced in different studies, in their studies. We need to separate students who are advanced and allow them to create new ways for education. Strategic planning, that's what we need. Strategic planning and strategic budget control. Listen, I'm already proactive. I'm already working. A lot of times we do a lot of talk is cheap. Our action is mandatory for this job, and I believe that all of us are to a level where we can do certain things. But where I stand, and I'm involved already with the Senate, if you work hard, you'll be able to move forward with whatever it is you're trying to do, and take whatever you're doing seriously. Be able to write grants when you get grants. Be able to not just wait for someone to coach you to say what you need to do. And when you do what is right, and when you plan and prepare, you gotta come out ahead. And if you do not plan, you set yourself up for failure. So when you begin to look at what needs to be done, look at the funding and take everything you do seriously and plan and prepare. And I believe that we'll be where we need to be in June. And I won't say that if I win or if someone else wins, but whoever wins, let's make sure we work for the people and work for South Carolina District 39 so that when we go there, we'll represent like it should be. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, final question. We'll start with you, Mr. Stevens. Considering how well educators continue to provide instruction after the coronavirus pandemic canceled state testing and assessments, what are your opinions about accountability measures today?
My thoughts about the accountability measures, we have put in place in our school districts accountability measures that measures the progress of our students on a weekly basis or monthly basis. We understand where our students are. We understand who are standing out as it relates to the teachers, the administrators, and how well we will do on those state mandated testings as well as those federal testings. So there's a snapshot that is being taken throughout the school year that will tell us or forecast how well we will do. And I believe that has happened, and through by the state superintendent of education and the state board of education, they understand that these things have been put in place that will help with accountability, not relying on end of course testing and federal testing to tell us exactly where we are. We know where we are and we know where we should be. So I believe wholeheartedly that the system that has been put in place will give us a true measure of whether or not we have been successful in our educational process, or have we faltered in certain areas. And those things will help us in improving education if we get back into the classrooms during the summer months, or we're waiting to the August time frame. So accountability measures are in place. We need to make sure that we adhere to those accountability measures and make sure that we do what is right by our students. Thank you.
Hello?
Hey, did we lose someone?
I'm sorry. I had the mute button on. I'm sorry. I had the mute button on because I couldn't hear I could hear the reverb, and I forgot to turn it off. I apologize. All right, Ms. Evans, it's your turn. Considering how well educators continue to provide instruction after the coronavirus pandemic canceled state testing and assessments, what are your opinions about accountability measures today?
Accountability measures. Well, technology expansion, of course, will play an important role in any accountability. Like, because of the COVID-19 has shown us that the world can often change immediately. We must be equipped. So just as technology is transforming the way our teachers teach and the students learn, we need to be prepared. And technology expansion will be that way. That will be the way that we will be held accountable for situations that we're in now.
Okay. So, Mr. Montgomery, the question is yours. Considering how well educators continue to provide instruction after the coronavirus pandemic, what are your opinions about accountability measures today?
Well, just like I said earlier, just like educational Superintendent Molly Stevens said earlier, 150,000 households are without technology. They don't have internet, nor do they have the phone. So that means that there are parents that are there as well that don't have these necessities. If the parents can get things and get involved, we can provide technology for them. Then there could be accountability that will be stronger, not only for them but for the student, for their families, for the kids as well. So if we can give them what they need, we've already set them up to move forward, to advance. And then when we do what we need to do and prepare, they can always go farther down the road. So I believe that if we do some of these things, we'll be farther where we need to be. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Connor, considering how well educators continue to provide instruction after the coronavirus pandemic canceled state testing and assessments, what are your opinions about accountability measures today?
I say good luck. Without a way to gauge a child's ability to have learned something the previous year or during the school year, like a final exam, for instance, not having been able to do that during the pandemic, I don't know how you're going to be able to get any accountability for how that child has been educated these last 4 or 5 months. The school's been out. Somebody needs to come up with something, because I really don't think it's going to be an easy task to gauge, how well the child has learned and how he's retained things since the virus took a hold and canceled school. I can guarantee you their minds have not been on study.
Mr. Connor, your mic is fading out a little bit.
Yeah, sorry, it's probably my internet connection.
No, you're back.
It's like trying to catch smoke. It's just not going to be an easy task, and I really don't think there's going to be a good way to gauge how well this school year has been for the student. I don't know a good answer to that question. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, so what I thought we'd do now that we've finished all 5 questions is that we'd go back through, and this time I thought I'd start backwards from the way we began the whole Q&A, and give you all 1 minute to sum up and say anything that you'd like to say that you didn't feel like you got to say. And that means, Mr. Montgomery, we start with you.
Again, I believe that I'm running again for candidate for South Carolina State Senate, District 39. Again, I believe that many speak of change, but lack the experience spiritually, mentally, and physically to endure a daily task to serve our district. I also want to serve wholeheartedly. Now, I believe if we do the things that we need to do, as an individual, a good candidate to represent South Carolina and be a good leader, that we can always make things different. And I believe in the difference maker. I've been preaching for 15 years, 20 some years plus, and I believe that leadership starts from being young, where you follow at one time. But I've been a leader all my life, so I believe if you lead and be positive and be proactive, that you can go stronger and you can continue to move this district and the other districts where they need to be. And we will win, and we can win, and we will win. Thank you.
Okay, so Ms. Evans, your minute. Ms. Evans, is there any other thing that you'd like to say before we finish?
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Well, thank you, first of all. I was on mute. I was talking. Thank you, first of all, for allowing me to actually have a few minutes to, give you all my opinion. And Vernon, Mr. Connor, and Mr. Montgomery, it's been a pleasure talking to you all as well. And I just want to let you all know that I'm running, for the state senate to meet the demands of our district. Okay. And if I am elected, or when I am elected, I will be the voice of the future. I will speak the language of the future. I will put my everything into educating the students of this district the same way I did in my kids and other kids that I've been a part of their lives. It is a lot of accountability that need to be held for the children who have completed the school year in a different way. And at the same time, in the testing and, being able to take tests at the end of the school year would have been the best way to actually handle that. And for me, I've done, a little bit more for my daughter and her friends, and actually making sure they are where they need to be for the end of the school course. And that is testing. We did testing, algebra, English, biology. We just did our own way of testing so that we would know that our kids would definitely be able to go to the next level. Just know that I will be that person that will pick up for whatever we need in this district to make sure our education system will be state of the art. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Stevens.
Yes. As a former,
I apologize. Go ahead. I apologize.
Okay, as a former school board member for over 17 plus years and a manufacturing manager for 28 years, I truly understand what the community is looking for as far as public education is concerned, and what I need to make sure that our students receive as a school board member. But as a member of the South Carolina General Assembly, I will work to ensure that all children are provided equal learning opportunities that will enable them to develop world-class skills, knowledge, and essential life and career characteristics. That I too must feel assured that effective teaching and active learning are delivered in a safe and nurturing schooling climate. And lastly, local, state, and national leaders must be made aware of and address concerns of our school districts in communities throughout the state of South Carolina. I must continue to advocate for public education, not only in the South Carolina General Assembly, but to my colleagues in Washington, who are there to assure that our kids are given the opportunities that should be afforded to them through by public funding, whether or not it's state or whether it's national. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Connor.
Well, I want to thank you for allowing me to speak and to voice my opinions. My final word would be change the hearts and minds of the school boards, the school superintendents, so that they can give support to the teachers in the way that teachers feel best to educate the students. I know it's good to sit on the sidelines and try and coach a football game, but unless you're actually on the field, like the teachers are, you might not see the whole picture. You know, you have a perspective, but I can tell you what, the quarterback and the tight end knows more about what's going on in the game than somebody watching from the stands. Give the teachers more money. You might need to do a merit pay system so that teachers who produce the best students get the best money. That's the way it is in the real world. You do a good job in your business, you get a good raise. Just throwing money out is not going to solve the problem. Motivation, changing the hearts and minds of the people at the top, that's what's going to do it. And as the new senator, I will fight for those people in the school districts that need the help and give them everything they can get as far as support, and make sure that the education that the kids get is the best that we can give them in South Carolina. Thank you.
Okay, thank you all so much for coming and expressing your opinion and answering our questions and being patient with me with all the technology issues. This will be uploaded to the SC for Ed website as soon as we hang up. And thank you again. I appreciate it. You guys all have a great evening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
You as well. Thank you.
Okay.